Yeah, hi everyone. This is a follow-up to my series of videos I did recently. There are 4 videos, I think, or 3 videos or 4 videos on the Surface Pro 3 and my experience using it for the last few months. Now, in one of the videos, I addressed the heat, battery, and noise, fan noise issue. And the conclusion for me, or the experience I had, was that I did not have those problems, even though I'm aware that many people do have the problems. Um, my advice at the time was just be careful what you put on it, how you set it up, do things one after the other so that if all of a sudden you get heat and noise, bad battery life, you can track down what it was. And basically, if it's almost inevitably caused by high CPU usage. That's what causes heat, that's what causes noise, fan noise, and that's what causes low battery life. So you can usually track it down. Um, so now, funnily enough, when I went away for holiday this year at Christmas, just after doing those videos and posting them, I found all of a sudden my Surface Pro 3 was hot, not so much noisy, but the fan was on a lot, and the battery life was starting to be pretty bad. And it was noticeably warm. I mean, by hot, I mean it was, you know, basically what was happening is something was running all the time. And so it would heat up here as if I was doing as if something was using the CPU and something was using the CPU. So I just wanted to follow up here about what the story is with that, and what maybe what you can do about it, how you can avoid this. So the whole reason it happened was when I went away on holiday, I wanted to have all of my files, my work files, on OneDrive, and on OneDrive, I've been waiting to do that for a long time because of the issues to do with my ADSL connection. It's just not fast enough. Lots of issues. I wanted to wait till I had fiber, but I couldn't wait because the holidays were coming. Fiber wasn't installed. So I wanted to get some files up there and see what it was like. I'd always had, a few hundred megabytes of files on there, very important stuff to work on, but not everything. This time I wanted to get all my work files on there, or most of them anyhow. And so I first set about sort of trimming down my files, getting it down to a manageable amount, got it down from a terabyte to around about 400 gigabytes by removing a lot of stuff, archiving stuff, and just sort of getting rid of stuff I didn't really want or care about. And so that was a good clean out. And I thought, well, I'll try and get that onto OneDrive. So I started doing it with one set of files, just a set of files and folders. And what you do with OneDrive, it's just, if you're wondering, at least at this point in time, because OneDrive is constantly changing, and it's set to change again in Windows 10. This is still Windows 8.1. Really all you do with OneDrive, once you've got it installed, and this isn't OneDrive for Business, this is the OneDrive that comes with the your Windows 8.1 installation. I'm just going to try zooming in my phone. I'm using my phone to take this because it's much better than my webcam. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit and see if that works on the phone. That's just using the phone's own sort of zoom. I'm assuming that's in focus. I'll see if I can just spot that. Oh yeah, that's sort of in focus. Not too bad. Okay, so the way you use OneDrive really is you have the OneDrive folder, and on your desktop computer, not on the tablet, but on the desktop computer where all these files normally are, what I do is set up new folders in the documents on the OneDrive system, and then copy stuff into it. So I've got one pile of folders there. These are all the websites I work on. These are design and development folders. And so essentially, once they were clean, I took them out of the My Documents folder, the old Documents folder, and put them in here, into the documents on OneDrive. And at that point, they start synchronizing. They start uploading to OneDrive. And on the desktop, you need to make sure, because this isn't always the case, you need to make sure that that folder, the Documents folder, is make available offline, and everything underneath it is available offline. On your other computers, like here on the Surface Pro 3, I don't want to have everything that's on my OneDrive and on my desktop. I don't want to have all of it here on this computer. I really only wanted to have access to it if I was away and needed it. and I would then go online somewhere, either through my phone or through a Wi-Fi connection or whatever, and access the information. So it only had to be online. So on this computer, these things are not available offline. You can also see up here on the in the Windows Explorer, there's a one of these column headers, which is availability. You can choose your column headers here by right-clicking or click holding on the click holding on the column header, and then you can choose availability, and it'll show you whether the that folder or that item is available offline or not. So that's just another way to do it, just to check what's on or offline. So some of these things are available offline here. Those are actually the OneDrive, the OneNote notebooks. That's what those are. They can't be removed. They're just there all the time. But everything else I have here is availability, not offline. It's not there. It's got nothing listed. So those things are there if I go in and get them. That's what happens with those. Okay, so that's how you use OneDrive. And you, of course, use the other folders as you see fit, photos and so on. And so what I started doing when I had all this information, I trimmed these folders down to about, I can't remember, 60 gigs, something like that, or 80 gigabytes, and dragged all the folders and files in, and then sat back to wait for it to upload. And so this is from the desktop computer. So all of that starts syncing, and first thing I noticed is it's very, very slow. And it was only giving me up to a maximum of about 100K upload, a tenth of a megabyte. Not even that, sometimes more like a 20th to a 10th of a megabit per second upload speed. So it's very, very slow. Investigating that online seems to be the case. OneDrive upload to OneDrive is really, really slow through ADSL. It's probably something to do with all the back and forth it's doing, but it's really slow. So not so happy with that. I'm assuming that'll improve greatly when I have fiber connection, which I'll be getting soon. So I'm not too worried about that, but that's certainly not great. So if you're planning on using OneDrive, just be aware that it's going to take a long time to synchronize your data. And it did. It, in fact, took about a week, I think, to sync the documents folder that I wanted to have on there. And funnily enough, after that, I wanted to also synchronize about 80 gigs worth of photos as well. And I actually did that while I was away. I used TeamViewer to sign into the PC and check that it was running, still running and doing it. But it took my entire holiday of 2 or 2.5 weeks to upload the 80 gigabytes worth of photos to OneDrive. That's a long time. And so not good with ADSL. But whatever, it'll work better as things speed up. And at least now the photos are up there, so great. They're backed up on OneDrive. Wonderful. Plus they're on my desktop. Plus I can access them now from everywhere, including my phone. So my entire 80 gigabyte worth of photos is all accessible from all my devices at any time. So that's great. Works really well. Now, what has this got to do with the heat and the noise and the battery? Well, what happened was as soon as the data started uploading to OneDrive from my desktop, this computer here started getting hot and blowing all the time. And so, it seemed pretty obvious. Well, there's something to do with OneDrive. So you just go to the Task Manager, and I could see that here in the Task Manager, it was the Windows Search, which is there somewhere. It's not doing it now, but the Windows Search was running. And if I went to the Performance tab, it would sit at about 30%. That seems to be the amount that Windows lets it use, around 30% when it's doing indexing. So to confirm that that's what it's doing, you can go into your control panel here, and in control panel you just tap on indexing options, that one there, and that gives you this window. And right now it says indexing complete. 117,000 items indexing complete. When it's indexing, that will say indexing, blah, blah, blah. And so right now it's not indexing, so it's not doing anything, so it's fine. The tablet behaves as it did before, but During that entire time, whilst it was synchronizing all those files very, very slowly for weeks, for weeks it synchronized these. During that entire time, this computer here would very slowly index them. And because it was going up, synchronizing so slowly from my desktop to OneDrive, this thing would run all the damn time. It just wouldn't stop. I mean, if you came in and you did stuff, it would say, oh, indexing is paused whilst computer is being used. But even that wouldn't stop it. It would just stop for a little bit and then pick up again. So, it'd sort of go on and off very quickly. And in this window here, the performance, you could see there would always be a big spike at 30%, and then it would drop a bit, and then go back to 30%, and drop, and back and forth, and blah, blah, blah. And whilst it was at 30%, it was blowing. It was getting hot and it was blowing. So I was really busy doing that indexing. So the point there is just synchronizing. All I did was something on another computer. I went to my desktop computer. I did nothing here. I just went to my desktop computer, threw a bunch of files onto OneDrive. And what happens? This computer starts overheating and getting hot, and the battery starts getting wasted. So there isn't even a connection between the two, other than that one's uploading stuff. This one decides it has to go and synchronize, gets hot, battery gets wasted. And there was so it's highly likely, I think, that some people are doing this. They're synchronizing stuff, or they're working. This will kick off if I so much as go on my desktop computer and unzip some software. I might unzip some software, some source code for something that might be a zip file of 5 megabytes with 1,000 files in it, and I'll unzip that in my folders. And of course, all my work folders are now in OneDrive on my desktop. That computer immediately starts synchronizing those files to OneDrive. And whilst you're working, it'll synchronize them, and you delete them, and it'll stop doing it, and so on. And it takes care of all that. But the fact is, it's constantly synchronizing while you're working, constantly, because you're constantly creating files. And if you do something so silly as what some people recommend, and that's to move your My Documents folder, actually move the location of My Documents into the OneDrive folder. Some people say you should do that. Now, I think that's a mistake, because in My Documents, you get a whole lot of files that are a lot of programs have started to put their temporary files, their working files into My Documents, which is great for backups, because typically you back up your user profile or your documents and you get those files. So Microsoft Outlook, for example, those files, the PSD files, are now in My Documents, and they have been for a few years now. However, that PSD file, I don't use it here on this computer, but on my desktop, my PSD file it's over 10 gigabytes, plus the archive file, plus various other smaller PSD files. It's many, many gigabytes, and it sits there as a great big 10 gig PSD file. As soon as I launch Outlook on a daily basis and then go into my email, that file is changed. Every time it checks email and it opens that file is changed. What happens? It'll start synchronizing that file back up to OneDrive. So you don't want that. That's a waste of your bandwidth. It's a waste of your battery on your Surface Pro 3. But what's going to happen is, if you've done that, if you've synchronized any of these folders, you might, for example, have your if you're synchronizing your user profile, you've got all those temp files from Internet Explorer, every application that has temp files, your web browser, and so on. If you synchronize this thing, you might have your Steam files. You might have all kinds of temporary files and working files go up. There's Mozilla products. All these things would get synchronized to OneDrive. And as I'm working on my desktop, that means it's happening constantly all day. Sorry for not having a whole lot to show here except my waving hands. I've seen my videos and that gets a bit boring, but what the hell. The point there is that if you're working on your desktop, and if you've got your entire Documents folder, or even worse, even more, maybe your something in your user profile synced with your OneDrive, or placed or moved into your OneDrive folder, you're going to cause activity in that folder all the time, syncing activity. If then you also own a Surface Pro, and the Surface Pro is configured to, with that account, with OneDrive, well, even if you don't have those files available on this computer, which I don't, I only have the file stubs, it is synchronizing all the time. And out the door goes your battery life. It's really, really quite bad. I think it's designed to not be too bad, but it probably easily knocked a third to a half off my daily battery, and it was constantly warm, which is irritating, which I don't really like, and the fan is going all the time. So at the moment, what I've been, with that in mind, I've set up my sort of system that I'm not sharing stuff on OneDrive that's constantly changing. But during the working day, yes, that will happen. And so just that's something to bear in mind. Now, I did look into all the options, because of course I'd like things to be synchronized. I'd like things to be indexed, so that I can search for something here on the Surface Pro and find it in OneDrive. So it's nice if things are synchronized, or indexed, I should say. I keep saying synchronized. It's nice if they're indexed. So I didn't turn it off. But what I did do is I found there was a registry key that you can set that tells the Microsoft search engine to not index on battery power. Pause indexing while on battery power. And if you go out searching on Google for solutions, that's what you'll find. You might find that particular reg hack. Well, I did try that one. And one thing about that hack is it's designed to work on the search indexer up to version 4, I think, which is up to Vista or something like that. And even though that key exists here in Windows 8, Windows 8.1, and it doesn't actually work. So if you set the key, it looks like it's working. The key is there. And even if you come in here and you go to your indexing, indexing options, in here, see now it says indexing speed is reduced due to user activity, yet I've done nothing. Something on my computer has changed, and it's now trying to index something there. And so, whoopsie, forgot what I was saying. Oh yes, that registry hack. So if you come in here to this place after applying that hack, if you decide to do it, it will say in here, if you're on battery power like I am now, it'll say indexing is disabled due to group policy setting. So it'll say it's doing it. But then if you go and actually check the check the task manager, it's not. It's still indexing. It continues on like it like it ignores that setting, which I believe it is doing. It's ignoring that setting. It's not. It's for an earlier version of the search engine, not for this one. And so the only way, you can't stop it doing that. So I've removed that hack. So really the only way to actually stop it is to turn off the service. If you go into these services. Where are the services? Are they here? I guess they aren't, so we'll just bring up the services. You can go into the service and you can turn it off, which is not great because, of course, you want to have the services. You want to have it indexed. But I'll just show you where that is. Type services, go to services, and in here, somewhere down the bottom, you can find the search. Search. It's either under search or it's under Windows search. Windows search, I think it is. Windows search, right there, running. So if you open that one, sorry, I just need to my nose a little wipe. There we go. So that's the Windows search service in Windows, and you can stop it. And you can also under startup type, you can disable it. Set it to manual, doesn't really matter. Once you've stopped it, it's stopped. And so you can do that to stop the whole thing. So the idea is that if you go away on holiday and you've got a whole bunch of stuff indexing at home and you don't really care for it to be synchronized or indexed on your computer here, indexed, not synchronized, you come in here whilst you're away, turn off the service, and turn it on when you come back, or turn it on when it's on battery power. It's a bit of a pain, but that's one way you can deal with it. That's really the only way you can deal with it. Indexing complete now. So that was really the summary. Again, a bit of a long video about something I could have summarized very quickly. But hopefully that will help someone who is experiencing this problem and might help you think about how you're going to organize your OneDrive, which otherwise is really very cool. It'll be also interesting to see what they do in Windows 10 about this, because there's a whole lot of debate about how they're going to, well, not debate, they're going to do something. But removing these stub files, that these stub files that it has that tell you a file exists, these are the files that are there, yet they're not actually here. You see that text file there, it looks like it's here, it's indexed, but it's not actually here. You see availability online only, it's only on the server. So they're getting rid of all this. I don't know what they're going to do, but it's probably not going to be as cool as this. But I have a feeling that part of that decision is something to do with this search indexing. However, I would be perfectly happy if all they did was make that group policy work, where if you're on battery power, it just stops in the indexing. That would solve this. That would actually solve this problem for everyone. So there we go. Thanks for watching. Yeah, I'll put this up now. Okay, thank you again. Bye-bye.